of Gautam Das work, I have seen snippets of this. It's bound to come out well. But since I have this task of introducing the context, I've just asked you to go back not only to this day, exactly 180 years ago, and is remembered even today. More on that side and woefully less here. That is the tragedy of Mohan. He is given as a prefix to the Bengal Renaissance. His name comes in a series of greats, but he is never adjudged properly as a standalone subject. A lot of material is there about adorating his works, but somehow I have a feeling, having grown up in the city, that there's a consignment of this person to one sect, one group, which is absolutely incorrect. If you go back by a flashback again, you'll see that the foundations of modern India would not come instantly after the Battle of Plassey. It would take time for the empire to consolidate. The empire was led by a nation that was still floundering. It hadn't established itself as a land power. It would establish itself as a land power only in 1815, after Waterloo. So around the end of the 18th century, 1790s, we were still floundering. Our systems were still under experimentation. And we are always told that we were a nation in decay, with superstitions and a lot of vices like excess of rituals. And the point that's stressed about in Bengal, without much analysis, is that we burnt our widows. And that is where Ram Mohan comes in. Just a word about burning of widows. Why was it so peculiar, so horrific in Bengal? It was done in certain other parts of India. Why was it so focused in Bengal? Why was it so abhorrent? It was abhorrent because the practice, I would dare say, had only developed in the pre-modern, late pre-modern and modern period. And why it developed is one of the very strange quirks of history. Very strange quirks of history. All the states in India practice what is called the Mitakshara system of land inheritance property, which actually denies the woman a natural right. Bengal had a culture which gave an equality of position to the woman. Brahmanical jurisprudence, when it sort of set itself in Bengal, had to deviate and go in for a practice known as Daibhag, which meant that this was one of the only states where the woman could actually claim the property as a matter of right, religious right. It was all right as long as you didn't have much of property to go around. But with the arrival of 1793, with the accrual of wealth in Bengal, where I'm speaking with a little bit of repetition because there are lots of historians, including Bharati here, but this is an angle of thought that it's only when money started flowing into Bengal and into the intermediary class, the orthodox, the zamindars, that there was a lot to go around. And that is the time when they found the natural claim of the widow to be rather annoying. And what could be the best way of disposing her? Especially if one chose to marry more than once. Burn them up. Horrible as it is, the Shastras were invoked, and this is where Ram Mohan plays. But another small takeoff on this, once widow burning, sati, the horrible, horrendous, inhuman practice came to a halt, Bengal took up another vice, consigning these widows to Vrindavan and Benares for purposes that I would not like to discuss. So we let it at that. Now coming back to the man who changed it all around, it was practically a single-handed effort. People who are aware of his life would know that in the 1820s, there was hardly any Indian, I repeat myself, hardly any Indian missionary in any state, in any province, who had the gumption to stand up alone. He was not even, he is fancied around as a Raja, but that was just a title given to him by Akbar II, I think. Akbar II, he was a titular Mughal Mughal emperor. I use the word titular because by that time, as you know, in another 30 years it would all be sorted out, that it didn't matter. It's just a title, but he had a struggling life on his own. And this, of course, I won't get into his life, I'll just get into the context of his life. In the 1820s, I repeat, there was hardly anyone in India who had that vision, the consolidation of thought, the capacity to interlocute with Britain and the rest of the world on terms of equality. He is the one who pointed out, he has many firsts to his credit. First, one of the firsts that we give to his credit is the word Hindu. This amorphous group of practices that passes off as neither Muslim nor Christian, but something that goes around in India, to give it a meaning, to give it an identity. The word Hindu in Western literature would first come in through Mohan. I may stand corrected, am I right? Right. He would again be the first known Indian of consequence to be crossing the seven seas and going to England. In fact, the curse of going to England is what haunted many for the rest. He happened to die there by meningitis. So that was taken as Kabhi Kala Pani. Don't cross the black waters, black seas. So there again he comes up first. But more important for me today as an inheritor of the great liberal tradition to you and me, who stand here today, is the fact that who is it who opened the doors first? And that I would place the credit solely upon a man who was lonely all his life. He was lonely the way, he had lots, I don't know how much was in the brought about he had to revolt against his own Brahmanical background. And it was his own grandmother who filed cases against him. His entire community went against him, but he stuck to the thought, stuck to the belief of the original thought behind Hinduism. That's the unity of God. This had, over the last 3,000 years, got diffused in the forms of expressions, in different myriad forms and practices, rituals, idols, names, and this became the image. But behind this, behind this forest of symbolisms lay a primordial unity in the belief of a single divinity. He was the one who extracted this thought from the jungle of superstitions, the jungles of practices, and took it out, segregated it, and explained to the rest of the world through the ruling powers. There are so many firsts to his credit that it would take us several years of examination, thought, focus, films, discussions to bring him back and give him the position that Mohan deserved. He died practically unsung in Bristol. He lives thereafter half sung. Thank you.